What's up, Team Real Take? It's your boy Omar. I'm here today, and I'm going to be talking about the wild card weekend matchups for Sunday. Hope everyone's having a good day. We're going to let some people join. Hopefully, everyone's doing well again. Happy Sunday. Happy wild card weekend. Happy NFL. Happy everything. Go Ravens. Big keys for today. Now, the biggest thing that we have to remember going into today is, the expansion of the wild card weekend. I love it. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's great for football. I think it's great for the fans. I think it's great for everyone. Even the players get paid more. More teams in, more incentive to play into the season. We saw that. We saw this. Week 17 was one of the most dramatic, one of the best Week 17s we've ever had, with more on the line than ever before. Now, obviously today, we have 6 teams going at it. We have 6 really good football teams playing today. We got 1 p.m. Ravens, Titans. We have the 4:30 game, I believe. It's going to be the Steelers. That's going to be the Bears, Saints. And then you have the nightcap. For the first time in almost 20 years, the Cleveland Browns are going to be playing in a playoff game. Now, what's going to happen with them is it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them because their coach currently is in the COVID protocol. He's fine. He's feeling better, but he's currently not allowed to coach. So he's in his basement. He's not going to be there. So they're going to have somebody else come in and coach for him, but we'll get into that a little later on. Another preview for today. Saints, this could be Drew Brees' final game ever. Now, Drew Brees been playing for a long time, drafted in 2001. He was drafted by the San Diego Chargers at the time. Came to New Orleans with that injury, and then he lit it up, broke almost every single record. I think he and Tom Brady are still battling for 1 and 2 on touchdowns, but every other record is Drew Brees. Completion percentage, passing yards, or yards per attempt, all of it's Drew Brees. So Brees has got a lot to play for. Obviously, he wants to go out with a Lombardi a la Ray Lewis, but we're going to see if that happens. The Bears, one of the biggest surprises from midseason till now, the Bears, losers of, at one point, 6 straight, started the season 5-1, then went on a tailspin and ended up 5-7, and then they went 3-1 in their final 4 games. Chicago Bears, really good defense. Mitchell Trubisky playing very good football. Very underrated right now. Mitchell Trubisky playing, it's not great. Can't say it's great. Can't say it's worth that second overall pick that he was selected at. But Mitchell Trubisky, damn good football player right now. And with that defense, they can make a run. They definitely could make some damage in the playoffs and possibly end the dream of Drew Brees in winning his 2nd ring. Another thing, Ravens-Titans. Actually, let's just go right into it. Ravens-Titans. The Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans are going to be playing at 1 p.m. in a super wild card matchup. They've been pulling this super wild card weekend thing for a long time. They've been saying, "Oh, it's not just wild card weekend; it's super wild card weekend." This is one of those games where I'd say, "Okay, yeah, you can call it super wild card weekend," because this is a headline matchup. You have 2 of the best running teams in football. You have Derrick Henry, who arguably is the most dominant player in football right now. You have Lamar Jackson, who is the most electrifying player in football right now when he's on it. And if both of the teams are on it, if both of the teams do their thing, I think this could end up being one of the best games we've seen in this postseason, period. Because not only do you have the fact that the Ravens right now, they lost last year to these Tennessee Titans. They lost to Ryan Tannehill. They lost to Derrick Henry. They lost to Mike Vrabel. When they were 14-2 and the number 1 seed, not only do you have that, you also have the fact that the Baltimore Ravens lost in overtime this year to these Tennessee Titans when Derrick Henry just ran through the entire defense for a touchdown in overtime. But regardless, one thing to keep in note, the Baltimore Ravens, when they go into Tennessee, especially in the playoffs, they don't lose. They don't lose on the road. That's the thing about these Ravens. That's the thing about John Harbaugh. Even when Flacco was there, when the Ravens play on the road, they were one of the best road playoff teams ever. People forget, under Joe Flacco and John Harbaugh, Joe Flacco has the most road playoff wins of any quarterback. I believe he has 8. Baltimore Ravens, road team. They're built for it. They're built. They play solid defense. They run the ball, keep time possession. It's a team on the road you do not want to face. And, the only question is going to be, because we know that Derrick Henry is going to be incapable to stop. The Baltimore Ravens will not be able to stop Derrick Henry. And if they do, I'm going to be extremely surprised, as is everyone else around the country. Now, the question isn't how do they stop Derrick Henry? The question is, how do you contain Derrick Henry? They need to contain Derrick Henry to the point where when Ryan Tannehill throws the football, he makes a mistake. And the Ravens, this secondary is one of the best in the game right now and one of the most underrated as well. Yeah, we know about people like Marlon Humphrey, who's an all-pro. We know people like Marcus Peters. We know all those fates. But Chuck Clark and Deshaun Elliott back in the defense, as safeties, monsters, having really underrated seasons. Those guys are back there working their tails off. Nobody thought they were going to be like this in the beginning of the year. People thought that Earl Thomas was going to be there. And then, showed a little brotherly love, a little too much brotherly love, and, well, he's gone. But, yeah, this is going to be an interesting game. I do think that the Tennessee Titans are currently one of the most dangerous teams in football because of how well Derrick Henry's playing. Mind you, Derrick Henry was over 220 yards going into Week 17. He was over 220 yards away from 2,000 for the season. Think about that. The drive you needed to get those yards and win that game, because they need to get that game to get in the playoffs, the drive you needed, immeasurable. It's scary. That is scary. And that should scare people. That should scare defenses. But this Baltimore Ravens defense is not scared like that. This Baltimore Ravens defense knows Derrick Henry. He's the monster. He's the monster they faced before. He's like, Derrick Henry to the Ravens is like Jason or Michael Myers from Halloween. Yeah, he gets them sometimes, but he just keeps coming back. But at the end of the day, now they're not surprised. Towards the end of the movie, no one's surprised. They're like, "Oh my God, Mike Myers is back. All right, let's go." Like it's that shock factor is over. There's no more shock factor. Now it's just, how do I beat this guy? That's what it is. How do I beat this guy? And how do you beat Derrick Henry? You don't, like I said. But what you can do is you have to reinforce that the second level of that defense. You have to have some of the big guns out there. Marlon Humphrey needs to be out there every single play, which he usually is. And he needs to be playing that nickel spot. You need to have if they had Jimmy Smith, it would be a lot easier, but I believe he's out now. But you need to have bigger bodies, maybe more linebackers to help protect against that, because once he gets past that defensive line, if you just have, Marcus Peters and company there, it's going to get Josh Norman. When we saw him almost do it, he almost did it this season to Marcus Peters, but we're going to see. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think this game is going to come down to not just if they can contain Derrick Henry, but if the Tennessee Titans can find a way to stop this Ravens passing attack. Because right now, in the past, I believe, 5 games, the Ravens are one of the most dangerous and balanced teams in the NFL. When Lamar Jackson is throwing for touchdowns, when he's throwing for multiple touchdowns a game and he's running for over 80 yards a game, dangerous. You can't have that happen if you're the defense. That's too much. It's simply too much to guard against. Now, you can say that, oh, well, in the playoffs, he's trash or whatever. Well, first year, that was his 7th NFL start, and he almost came back and got them back in that game. He had a drive at the end to try to tie it, but, it didn't work out. People forget that. Second game, they got routed. They got simply routed by Derrick Henry. They got simply routed by Ryan Tannehill. They got routed. But Lamar Jackson wasn't the problem in that game if you watch it back. He wasn't the problem. Problem was offensive line. Problem was defense couldn't stop Derrick Henry. And they just couldn't get into a groove. Is some of it on him? Sure. Is all of it on him? No way. Then you got people like Ryan Tannehill, who everyone thought was done. Everyone thought Ryan Tannehill was done. And, even me, I thought it was written. Ryan Tannehill's a bust. It's over. Sayonara. I was wrong. Ryan Tannehill proved me and a lot of people who watch football very wrong when he came to the Tennessee Titans and became one of the most efficient passers in the NFL. He's becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He had 33 touchdowns, 7 picks this year. Who would have thought Ryan Tannehill would ever be capable of that? Goes to show how much Adam Gase actually affects quarterbacks and how much of a quarterback whisperer he actually is. Now, moving on. I'll get to some of my predictions a little later, but moving on. We have the afternoon game, which is the Chicago Bears versus the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Saints coming into this are one of the best teams in the NFC, and I believe they're the second seed, and they're coming into this very motivated to play for Drew Brees. They want to play their hearts out for their captain. They want to play their hearts out for their leader, their guy. Drew Brees has been the guy in New Orleans since 2006. Since he got there, he's been the guy. And it cannot be understated. That city, that team means so much to him. And I think they want to get a win for him today. Now, question is, what does that Chicago Bears defense think? That Chicago Bears pass rush, we know that Drew Brees, when you get pass rush in his face, it's make or break. He can be a little inconsistent. And the Chicago Bears team with Khalil Mack can really get after the quarterback. Now, the biggest question that I will decide this game, it 100% will, is Mitchell Trubisky. It's always going to come down to the quarterback on the Bears side. Mitchell Trubisky. If Mitch Trubisky is able to do what he needs to do, he doesn't need to be great. He doesn't need to be, he doesn't need to be Drew Brees. Mitchell Trubisky can go out there and be Taylor Heineke from last night, and they might even win this game. They might find a way to win. But if Mitchell Trubisky goes out there and he plays like Connor Cook did in that Raiders, I believe, Texans game from a few years back when he came in for Derek Carr, if he has an underwhelming performance, and especially an underwhelming performance from Mitchell Trubisky standards, it's not looking good for Chicago. And I know my good friend Marcus will be rooting on the Bears this weekend, but I think the Bears need their quarterback to have a game, or else they're gonna fucking lose. This is my opinion. Nightcap. Browns, Steelers, the Cleveland Browns for the first time since 2002, I believe, in the playoffs, playing, guess who? The Pittsburgh Steelers. A matchup made in heaven, some may say. I think it's made in hell, but that's just me. Browns and Steelers playing 8:15, I believe, on CBS, maybe. No, Browns Steelers on NBC because Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels are calling the game. But, okay, so Cleveland is obviously facing a dilemma here because obviously they had a COVID outbreak just at the latter part of the season. It caused most of their wide receivers to miss games. Now it's affected some of the coaching staff, and Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Browns, will miss this game. And because of quarantine, because of COVID, he caught COVID, and it's terrible. It's sad, honestly. Even for me as a Ravens fan, it's kind of sad to see because the Browns have always been, the Browns. They've always been, that team that finds a way when no other team can. Finds a way to mess it up. This time I don't even think they messed it up. I think it was just bad fortune for them. But the Cleveland Browns, first playoff game in almost 20 years. Everyone's ready. There's fans driving to Pittsburgh to go see the game. And what happens? Their head coach is out. Their head coach, who arguably was the difference maker from last year's team and this year's team, going to miss the game. And we're going to see what Baker Mayfield does on his own, because he's likely not going to have his best play caller there to help guide him. Obviously they'll have, other people there to step up and fill in. But, there was even talk of Kevin Stefanski possibly coaching from home, which I thought would have been, I don't think that's a bad idea. I don't know what's wrong with coaching from home. However, I do believe that there's a problem with, texting, and they can't monitor the coach while he's there, and then there's a problem with, the audio interface. So can't coach from home. He can't be interacting with the team. He's going to be watching in his basement, allegedly, by himself. No popcorn, no kids, no family. Alone. It'd be like that sometimes, Kevin. But I think the Browns and Steelers is an interesting game, because these are two teams that are pretty much very evenly matched, I think. The Browns are 10-6, Steelers 12-4, but the Steelers are pretty abysmal 12-4 as of late. Started the season pretty good. Again, weak competition, close games, but this team really never showed you that spark. They never showed you that level of talent, that level of play where you thought, oh my God, this team's going to be a nightmare to play in the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a team that many want to play in the playoffs. I'm a Ravens fan. I would like to play the Steelers in next week. It's not going to happen because of the way the seeding works out. But I would rather play the Steelers than I would the Chiefs right now. But granted, Ravens got to face the Chiefs eventually, so it'd be like that. Now, question is, what do the Steelers have to do to win this game? Because IMO, they're the underdog. Even with the Browns not having their head coach, the Pittsburgh Steelers got to show up. They lost to teams like the Washington football team. They lost to teams like they lost to the Bengals at one point. You can't be losing to those teams at the end of the season, especially when you're trying to clinch a playoff spot. Not just a playoff spot, you're trying to clinch home field throughout. They were battling with Kansas City for home field throughout, and they didn't get it because of those losses, because they lost to Washington, because they lost to the Bengals. Those are two extremely, especially that Bengals loss. That was a bad loss, and that exposed this team almost as much as any game. But the real game that exposed the Steelers this year was that Ravens-Steelers game, that second one that got flexed to a Wednesday. People forget. That was a day. The Ravens had no team. They had a practice squad roster, and they really were playing without any of their starters on most of their offense. And they went in there, and it was a one-score game. And it was close throughout. The Ravens were playing them very close throughout. And this is the Steelers 11-0 at this point, I believe. 11-0. It's supposed to be the best team in the AFC at that point. But they got exposed because they weren't. Obviously, Kansas City is the best team on paper at this point. And they're probably the best team in the league right now. Does that mean that they can't be beat? No. But it's going to be really fucking hard. So I'll just go through some of my predictions for this game. Today, Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns are taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't see it. I think they were frauds to begin with. I think that their team was never sustainable. I definitely think that the Steelers are on upset alert for today. I'm going to take the Browns. I'm going to take Cleveland 24-21. Move to the afternoon game, Chicago Saints. I think Drew Brees has not written his final chapter yet. Mitchell Trubisky, if he wants to win, he has to ball out. He has to play a good game. Not sure if he can do that, but hey, we'll see. Right now, I got Saints there 17-14. Sorry, 27-14. And then finally, the 1 p.m. game that's coming up in about an hour and a half that I'm really eager to watch. The Baltimore Ravens taking on the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee. Now, granted, biased, right? Ravens fan right here. But the Baltimore Ravens are one of those teams that they learn the more they play you. The more they get beat, the more they learn, the more powerful and impactful they are in practice. It's good. I liken them to a Saiyan from Dragon Ball Z when they're practicing, when they're fighting and they get beat and they just get stronger and they learn and they adapt. That's what this team is. They adapt. And I think today's going to be one of those days. I think today is going to be the day where the Baltimore Ravens, they find a way to contain Derrick Henry and they expose Ryan Tannehill. It's going to be difficult because he's got two great wide receivers, two great number one wide receivers. Now, the Ravens really only have about 1.5 wide receivers total, but it's not going to come down too much to the wide receivers, I think, for the Ravens. For the Ravens is all they have to do is keep that illusion, keep that threat of the pass there. If Lamar Jackson starts off on first down, completes a few balls, not deep even, take a few deep shots, though, in the beginning of the game, I would say, if you're the Ravens. Take a few deep shots. But especially against this really bad Tennessee defense. This is a terrible Tennessee secondary, actually. So take a few shots early, see what they give you. Hollywood's likely going to be streaking like he was in the first game in Tennessee this year. Take a few shots and keep that threat of the pass there. If the Ravens keep that threat of the pass there, it's done. It's over. They win because that's when Lamar Jackson's legs, that's when you have Gus Edwards come in, that's when you have J.K. Dobbins come in and ball out, even Mark Ingram come in for a few carries. That's the thing about this team. They don't just have one dominant rusher. They have four. They have four dominant rushers, and one of their dominant rushers just happens to be their starting quarterback and the fastest player on the field. So, watch out for that today. If the Ravens keep that threat of the pass there, it's theirs to lose. I got Ravens today, 31-24. That's my final predictions for today. We'll see you guys for the game. Hopefully everything turns out well, and I'm not liars. I was 3 for 3 last night. I was 3 for 3 in my predictions from last night. I had the Bucks, the Bills, and the what was the other team that played? Bucks, Bills, and the I forgot what about the other team was. Yeah, I wasn't really paying too much attention to that afternoon game. Oh, it was the Seahawks-Rams. I had the Rams in the upset. But, yeah, 3 for 3 yesterday. Hopefully that stays 3 for 3 today, but we'll see. Hopefully the Browns find a way to win their first playoff game. Hopefully the Ravens can exercise the demons of their past and win this pivotal game against the Titans. Hopefully the Saints can keep Drew Brees' chapter running and keep his career going for another week. But we'll see. Until then, remember, keep it real. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. We'll have some new content out this week. Check it out. I've been Omar. And this is Real Take Sports Talk.